Right. Okay, let's go. So, yeah. Well, excuse me. We've got some musical accompaniment in the background today, so yeah, sorry. Okay, so we're up to so the sugya. We're in the middle of the sugya of the Sefer Torah. And the Gemora got onto this. It's always worth reminding yourself of that because the last line in the Mishnah dealt with Kisvei HaKodesh and the idea that you can't split Sifrei. You can't split Sifrei Kodesh. Even if you have Shutzvim, and even if they both agree to it, it doesn't help because it's disrespectful, bizayon to the Sifrei Kodesh, right? That's how we got onto it. So we get into a whole discussion here about how you have to treat them, whether you can attach them together, the separating of lines between them, and we came up with this very unusual, if you like, this very unusual halacha, which is Einos and Sefer Torah lo orcha yosel kefay, lo kefay yosel orcha, which basically means that the circumference, if you took a string and you put it around the circumference of the Sefer Torah, then it should equal the same as the height, which is quite difficult to do because you'd have to. It depends on the thickness of the cloth. Basically, you take a string and you wrap it around the whole Sefer Torah. So the roll itself, this is your field, this now. You wrap it around the whole thing, the string, then that string should be the same as the height of the cloth.
Okay. Do we pass it?
That's a good question.
Because I was thinking about our big
It is brought down in halacha. But maybe we'll check the halacha when we finish the sugya. No, maybe we'll take that off when we finish the sugya actually, because and also this is it an it's an optimum thing. You saw in the Gemora, that he tried to do it one of the Amaroi was Otano.
He rolled the whole Torah just in one, or excluding the Atzei Chaim.
I think it's a good question that. Chut hamakifes obya, Rashi says, the string which goes round the thickness. I presume that means when it's all rolled to one side. So you've got the whole thing in one roll. Yeah. Let's say Bereshis or Zos HaBracha, and you put a string around the whole thing. That's the same as the height of the cloth. But it's going to depend on so many different factors. Rashi says the idea is you need to actually measure the ksav so that you get to the, it's not too large, not too small. So you get to the end of the cloth. You get to the end of the cloth where basically you get to the end. And then you're kind of like, you've made sure that it works out in that way. But it's a tricky, very difficult thing to do. That's the point, right? And so the Gemora says like this. We've got questions from a brisa. We're up to a brisa now. It's quite a long brisa, which is going to go through the dimensions and what exactly was inside the Oren, right? The Oren, as in the Oren occasion in the Mishkan, right? Basically, the question from a brisa. The question we don't get to till the next Omen. So first we'll learn the brisa. We'll get to the. We're halfway down. You're done on the Ralph, almost exactly halfway down. That's our music for today. Music for tonight. Yeah. We'll leave it to the trustees to sort out. So. Yeah. So basically, halfway down the Omed is Meisivei. Yeah, you can see that it's a brisa, right? We'll ask a question for a brisa. Orange Asa Moshe. The Aron that Moshe made, it was 2.5 amas high, right? 1.5 amas wide, and the height was an amma and a half. In where you measure each amma as 6 tfachim. So if you do the maths, which I'm not very good at, you get to a height of 15 tefachim, right? Because it's easy as we'll see to do this in tefachim, right? The height is each amma is 6 tefachim, so therefore it's 2.5 ammas high. So 2.5 ammas high is 15 tefachim. It is an amma and a half wide and an amma and a half high, which is 9. Yes, is that right? 9. Yes, 9 wide and 9 high. Yeah, tefachim. Okay, that's the dimensions of the Oren. The haluchos archon shisha v'rachon shisha. Now the luchos themselves were 6 long and 6 wide. They were a square. Many people don't imagine them as a square, but they were a square, right? 6 by 6. For Avyon Shlosha, and their thickness was 3 tefachim. They're 3 tefachim thick. Menachos keneged archos shel Aron, and they were placed corresponding to by the sort of opposite the length of the Aron, the opposite the length of the length of the Aron. So one next to the other, So that means to say that that they are placed one above. It sounds like above the other. So the Aron itself is a length, we said, of 15 tvachim. 15 tvachim, right? Each of the luchos is 6 tvachim. Yeah. So that means to say you've got 6. We can draw a picture if you want, but you've already got pictures. Have you got pictures there? What? Oh, you don't have pictures. Right. Each of. What was that? Was it your? Well, the dimensions of the Aron. Was the dimensions of the Aron? Here's one I prepared earlier. Not me.
Yeah, but what we talking about the fifth possession? Oh yeah, right. That was the space inside and the outside.
Yeah, but not about the dimensions of inside the Aron. I don't think that's new. This is unique. I think this is unique to here. This is unique to here. Yeah. So this is your Aron according to this is all according to Reb Meir. You will see soon. This is your Aron according to Reb Meir. Right? That's the Aron. Yeah. This is 15 tvachim length, right? And this is 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
By 9.
By 9. Well, the height. I'm not doing a 3D diagram, so you have to manage this one. Now the luchos. He says, "Kama luchos ochlos ba'aron shnei masot tvachim." The luchos consume in the Aron 12 tvachim. Why? Because the luchos are placed like this. 1, 2. Do you understand? They're placed lengthwise.
On top of each other.
Pardon? Yes.
Why? Why not left?
Well, that's how it is. We'll see. The Gemora is going to explain how the whole size is used up. Now, how much of the pardon?
Yes, on top.
I actually haven't drawn this very accurately because look. How big are they? They're 6 by 6. Yeah, they're 6 by 6. So this is 9. This is 9. So you've got to do 6 like that. Okay, you with me? 6, right? Those are your 2 luchos. You with me? Yes. The luchos are 6 by 6. 6 by 6, and same with this 6 by 6. Right? How much does that equal from there to there? 12. How much is left? 3. So the question is, what does that 3 use for? That's what we're going to discuss. Pardon? Sefer Torah. That's what we're going to get to. What was that? The thickness of the Aron.
The wood.
What do you thickness? The width?
Gold inside of wood, inside of gold.
No, this is the space inside the whole lot, I think. Well, actually, I think we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the walls. We'll get to the walls as well. Yes, we'll see. We'll get to the walls. The Gemora says like this, right? So, right? So what's left? 3 tefachim. You take off a tefach, yeah, 1 tefach. You have to take off 1 tefach, half of which is for this wall, and half of which is for that wall. Okay, so that means half a tefach is the thickness of that wall. Half a tefach is the thickness of that wall. How much are you left with? 2. 2, not 3. You've taken off, right? Pardon? You've taken half.
Sorry,
Yeah, right? Yeah. We're just doing the length at the moment. We'll come to the width in a minute. Yeah, we're just doing the length in the moment. So you've got 2 tefachim of air space left. You're left over 2 tefachim shebohen sefer Torah monach, in which a sefer Torah was placed. Now, as the Apostle says, "Ein ba'aron rak shnei luchos avonim shenech sham Moshe v'Gomer." There was only in the Aron the 2 luchos, the pasuk in Melachim, that Moshe placed there. My ein ba'aron rak. What does it mean? There wasn't in the Aron. There wasn't in the Aron only. That's a double negative, right? Ein miut. We have a klal that miut achamiut. This is an exclusionary term followed by an exclusionary term. Ein is exclusionary and rak is exclusionary. Therefore, ve'ein miut achamiut elo l'rabos. So an exclusionary term followed by an exclusionary term. The klal is it comes to include something. That's 2 negatives equal a positive, basically, right? Sefer Torah, Rabbos Sefer Torah shemanach ba'aron. And that includes the Sefer Torah that was placed in the Aron.
What about the shards of the first lippers? Weren't they put in the Aron as well?
We will come to that as well. We'll deal with that as well. But at the moment, according to Meir, that gap at the top here is for the little Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm not going to draw it yet because we've got to see the width first. Yes, little. 2 tefachim. Well, not really. I suppose so. Quite small, but not very. You can get.
There's still a gap.
Each of the I'd say Chaim. Half rolled is a tefach. You could probably, it's not, you could do that.
But you have the depth of it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's the 9.
That's
The
it.
depth of
No,
it.
it's in the 9. There's still there's the space there. There's still 3. That if the
Oh, we're going to deal with that soon. We're going to deal with that. No, we're going to get to that. We're just doing the height length. We're just doing the height.
So what's wrong with the space in it? It's the spare space.
Yeah, we'll go. Well,
How bad is it to have some space?
no, we're not. There's not a problem with space. We'll deal with the point about how you get it out in a minute, because we can't fill it completely. Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. But anyway, let's just do the width first.
Those internal measurements.
No, we've included the walls because half a tefach is for the walls.
I thought it was fucking one.
Half a tefach for each wall.
I thought it was 1 tefach.
No, half a tefach. This is a half, and that's a half, which is why you get to 15 in total, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Is that all right? Thankfully, this Gemora is not Erev in maths. It's not Erev in maths. This Gemora, so even I can do it. But what was that?
Yeah, next one.
Yeah.
Good chance. The height of the rock,
We need
the
the
height of the rockers, you know?
height of the lookers.
1.5
Yeah, we do 6. They were 6 by 6, and 3 thick, 3 thick, 3 thick, and the height of the Oren was Amma V'chetzi, so it's also 9. Oh, we'll come. Yeah, we might come to the Gemara. Will fill in most of the gaps. Literally, here we'll see. Anyway, that's the that's Pinasta Oren La'arko. So what you've dealt with there, you've explained and filled the length, just the length, right? Say Pinasta Oren La'arko. Now you have to substantiate, you have to fill the width of the Oren as well. How much do the luchos take up in the Oren? 6 tefachim. Nishtaru sham shlosha tefachim. You're left with 3 tefachim there. Yeah. Same thing. Take up a tefach, half there and half there, right? So you've got a half there and a half there. The thickness of the walls in that direction. You're left with 2. Yeah. So the Sefer Torah, you won't have trouble getting it in and out in too small a space. Divrei Reb Meir. That's what Reb Meir says. In other words, Reb Meir, it's a bit of an anticlimax if you like. You're thinking what goes in that space. The answer is, you're right. There was a space of 2 here. Space of 2. And your Sefer Torah is there. That's your Sefer Torah. Okay.
Why 2, 3? Because
No, because you used up the other one. Half a tefach for each thing to each wall. Yeah. So you're left with 2. And the reason for that is so that you should be able to lift out the Sefer Torah when you want to use it.
When do they actually use them? When do they use
Sefer Torah, was this the question is,
After. No.
yeah, that's the question. Was this the Sefer Torah Shabbat Azara?
No, because they couldn't go in and take it out.
Exactly, it was not the Sefer Torah Shabbat Azara. This is Tosfos Kasha. This is Tosfos Kasha. Oh, very good. This is Tosfos Kasha. Look at Tosfos Maskal Shaloi, 4th Tosfos down. Shaloi Sefer Torah Yotzev Nechnas Kashu Dochuk. Vim Tomas is Tosfos Alelohim Etzino Semin Aron. They never took it out of the Aron. So ha'osilikonis of Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. They think they weren't allowed to go in. Of Yom Kippur Ashkechom said Yom Hashem Etzio. Doesn't say anywhere that's now. Doesn't say anywhere, in Yom Kippur that they used to go. That was part of the avodah of the Kohen Gadol to go inside the Aron and take out the Sefer. We don't do such a thing. The Yishlema de L'Tzorech Kedei L'Sakin Shari Likonis Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. We know that they used to go in to the Kodesh HaKadoshim to fix it, to mend it, because I remember Erevin. That's the thing where they used to have the special box, and they used to lower them from the roof. Through the roof, exactly. Here as well, you can't just leave a Sefer Torah ad infinitum. Anyone knows that, right? You don't use a Sefer Torah. You always got to roll it a bit or use it, otherwise it gets moldy or whatever. Yeah. Also, when the Mishkan Shiloh was destroyed until Shlomo Melech built the Beis Hamikdash, that period of time, in that time, it wasn't inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It hadn't yet built the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So during that interregnum, they were able to remove the Sefer Torah from the Aron and use it. It's fascinating, right? So basically, the Tosfos is saying, that's answering your question, right? Either it was during the time of between Mishkan Shiloh and the and the construction of the Beis Hamikdash, where there was the Aron was more accessible because it wasn't inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, or even afterwards they needed to go in and just check it, make sure it was still a kosher Sefer Torah. Don't know what happened to that Sefer Torah. It was nignas together with the Aron. Pardon?
Still in the Aron,
Wherever the Aron is. Yeah, wherever the Aron is. Yes. Anyway, Divrei Reb Meir. That's Reb Meir. Let's just see Rashi before we do Reb Yehuda. So Rashi says it's about 2/3 of the way down. No, 1/3 of the way down. But Amabas Shishtvachim Remeratame. Remeka, according to his reasoning, Dom, he says, Kola Amos or Beinonios. All the Amos were average size. Average size. There are 3 possibilities with how many Tzochim in an Amo. You get 5, 6, or 7. These are average ones. Average size is 6. That's Rashi telling you, like we've explained, right? That there was one above the other. It does seem surprising, doesn't it? One above the other. Most people you would imagine.
No, but that's the 15 is the length. It's not.
No, it's they're next to each other.
They're not on top of each other. They're next to each other.
Oh, they're always next to each other. The thing is flat. They're next to each other. They are next to each other. They are next to each other. But it's. 1 second. Where was the Oren orientated inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim?
They can't be on top of each other. They can't be because
No,
otherwise.
they weren't. I
that's
didn't mean that. I didn't mean on top of each other. I meant when you're looking at a bird's eye view in the Oren.
There was one thing in Yom that how did they fit in?
No.
Because you only had.
Think about it like this. Think about this. Sorry, the script. Okay, so you're right. The script on the luchos, right? Script on the luchos. So it is presumably that way, right? The lines are like that. So you've got the first 5 and the second 5.
You think they were late?
Do you understand? That's what I'm trying to get at. Meaning, when you're looking at the lengths of the Oren, you're going to want to read. I'm assuming they're 6 by 6, right? It's the same dimension. You can orientate them however you want. They're squares. So I'm assuming that the orientation of the luchos is in such a way as we imagine them. That if you're facing the Oren head on and the Oren is lengthways, not like that.
The other way. It's not.
It's not like that.
It wasn't like that.
It's like that.
No, Armstrong does draw them.
Like this?
No, the other way.
This way. Which means, no, what I'm saying is you have Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the first 5, and then Kavod Savicha. No,
It's next to each other, not on top.
sorry, it's no Sirza. What? Huh?
That's next to each other. Now it looks next to each other. These are the positions.
They were. Rashi says Zu Eitzel Zu. Rashi, what was that? What? No, but there's all articles here. But Rashi says Zu Eitzel Zu.
One next to the next, one next to the other. Like that.
When Rashi says Zu Eitzel Zu, what does he mean? He means if the Oren is horizontal, then the luchos are next to each other. And that means you're going to read them that way and that way, like that. They're going to be like Was it not? I can't remember.
Whenever the picture of the Beis Hamikdash has been drawn and the Kodesh has always been vertical. That's what
The Oren.
the Oren.
No. He doesn't mean on the end. He doesn't mean on the end. He means, is it like that? The Oren is not a square, right?
Yeah.
The Oren is 15.
But you know that because it says the past.
15 by 9.
Is it?
That's right.
Was
But
that
the bars, but the bars were horizontal. No, but the bars were on the 2 ends. On the other side, on either side of the horizontal, not the vertical.
Is it the same as the same?
Where were the bars? Were they on the long sides? You sure?
So, isn't it the same as the Orion? Why is it different?
No, it's not.
Every short.
No. The way we draw the what?
No, you've got to look in the second time, 2 of them next to each other, finished. It's the same,
Yeah.
same positioning as every short.
It's on the front page, the front cover,
See, like I said,
on the width.
it's on the width. Yeah, I think you'll find that it was like that. And we know that because we know from the Gemora in Yuma that the 2 badim were protruding through the parochas. So the answer is it was on the it was on the horizon. Yeah. So that's the only way it could have been. And that means, which fits with this, because it means the luchos are next to each other.
So they're not the same as the Orion.
Yeah.
They are the same as the.
What do you mean the same as the
one
Oren?
next to none.
The one. Yeah. Each luach is next to the next one. Like
Just
that.
catching up. You're saying that the
1, 2.
The bottom coming. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Now we know where we are. I think. I didn't notice it was on the front. The front cut what? Okay. What was that? Where in the Yuma? Well, no, but I'm saying that's the answer because it was in the Shnei Badim. The Badim were protruding out, so therefore that must have been.
That's what makes much more sense.
then you have your luchos next. Exactly, both luchos are facing. They're in the right order.
But there was a bit. Right. So again, when did they take this off?
Well, that's the thing. The only time they would have taken the lid off, presumably, was in order to check the Sefer Torah. Yeah.
I used to have a teacher who once quizzed the class. I think it was Diane Hammer, if I remember correctly. He said, when was the time that anyone could go, when was the time when they couldn't go into the Kodesh Kodashim without being Yom Kippur?
Yeah.
And the answer was, they used to take the Sefer Torah. According to what I remember him saying, they used to take the Sefer Torah from the Aron in order to be able to check ciphers on other Sefer Torah that were being written.
That's interesting.
But
That's interesting because the Toras doesn't say that. That's interesting. It doesn't say to check the others. I mean, it was the original Sefer Torah. What would be interesting to know is the Sefer Torah that's discovered at the time of Yoshiyahu. Yeah, was that the one? Meaning Yoshiyahu, they find a Sefer Torah. Chilkiyahu Kohen Gadol, you know, that incredible Haftarah. When is it Pesach? No, it's that incredible Haftarah. You know, where they've forgotten what the Sefer Torah was. And it's just mind-boggling, you know. And they find this one Sefer Torah. The Chilkiyahu Kohen Gadol shows it to the Melech, and he cries and he weeps. He was a young boy when he became king. And that was the Sefer Torah.
They said that was hidden away. They found it during repairs.
Yes, well, was it? Maybe it wasn't in the Aron. I don't know. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so let's carry on Rashi. So Rashi says, "Oh, it's oichlos tofsos." They take up kachlosh na Mishnah. They take hold of oichel b'doram. Rashi says the Mishnah in Midas uses the same phrase. It consumes in the south. Amo achas gabi yesod mizbech. One amo. We got to talk about the foundation of mizbech. Afrosh mikra ki yuchlu is yakim mehena b'sefer Cheskel. We find the same phrase. And the same phrase appears in Cheskel. To consume means to take up space, basically take up. Semehem tefach. So the Gemara says you take up a tefach oviak solim, the thickness of the wall, showing v'chutz nimdad amosayim v'chetzi archo. The length is 2.5 amas, and you measure it on the outside. So that means you take up. That was the answer to your question. So you're measuring the measurements are external, and half a tefach is for the what's it called? Is for the walls. Yeah, it's for the walls. Sefer Torah shekosa Moshe, the Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote, Commission Emma v'yichtov Moshe es. They had in Sefer HaTorah. Imagine Sefer HaTorah. Yeah, it's a Shira Hazos. Sorry, the pasuk which refers to the Shira Hazos. So that pasuk means Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Sefer Torah. Yeah, that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Sefer Torah. Yeah. Okay. Ein miut acha miut. Ach barak shnei miut and ein ach and raka two miut, two exclusionary terms. Sheven Sefer Torah melach archel arach b'shel Aron. The length of Sefer Torah was placed to the width of the Aron. The width of the Aron. Yeah, the width of the Aron. I should have really drawn it the other way, but anyway, that's how it is. Same man. Yeah, same man. Right. So if you filled the whole space and the length, and you've explained the needs of the requirements of the measurement. Shisha tfachim b'midas rochba. You have 6 tfachim in the width. In the width, kadeshlo yisef Torah v'chulu klemalei tzarich lios rochba kol kach. It didn't need to be so wide. Ela b'shvil sefer Torah hamunach archoy l'roichav ha'aron. The only reason it was so wide was because of the Sefer Torah, which was placed. The length of the Sefer Torah was placed to the width of the Aron. So it shouldn't be difficult to take out. Because you're placing the length, yeah, is that right? Yeah, the length of the Torah, because of the width of the Aron. Yes. It's not that tall. 6. 6.
2 tefachim sound right?
6.
It was on one pole.
It was on one pole.
Was it? This one?
And Sefer Torah was on one pole. So how did
This
they
was
roll
on one pole.
it? How did they roll it? So how did they do it? Well, it was only 1/8.
We discussed before. No, we discussed this. We discussed that would have taken up a lot. That would take a lot more space with all the silver. You get that? You never get that. This is we discussed last week. We discussed about the Sefer Torah on being on one thing, but we said that of course the Sefer Torah we have nowadays is on 2. Ellie, you saw that this one was on 1?
No, I did. The picture here has one Sefer Torah on one pole, but I might be referring to what you're talking about, the circumference being the same as the height.
Yeah, that might be. Because I think we should assume this would be a normal one. In fact, I think we're going to come onto it I think we're gonna mention this later as well. Anyway, that's Dibra Met, right? That's Rabbi Yehuda. Now Rabbi Yehuda is a bit more complicated. Rabbi Yehuda says, "But Amabas Chamisha Tvachim." Now everything changes because according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Amos are 5 Tvachim, not 6. I'm gonna draw it again. V'haluchos Orchon Shisha, V'Rachman Shisha, V'Avion Shlosha. So let's just it should be quite straightforward to do this again with the measurements, right? So if you have, what are the measurements?
So the 9 becomes 7.5.
Is that right? 5, 6, 7.5. Right. So the 9 becomes 7.5. 9 becomes 7.5. Okay. And the what? The 15 becomes 12.5. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to get rid of the others as well. I've got to go rid of all of these. Sorry.
The rest of them chocolate. You can keep them.
You're right. Yeah, we've got much less space. That's the point. Much less space. What?
So it's almost possible to put a safe Torah.
Yeah, that's the issue. You cannot get, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a Sefer Torah in there. Look what he does with it. Look what he does with it. Good job. Anyway, it's an easy look. Yeah, so basically, yeah. Oh, Jeremy can't see it. Jeremy, you can't see it, can you? There we go. Pardon?
Sorry, so the 6 and 6 and 12.5. That doesn't work. How does that work?
It does work.
Why? You still got to take half off of the
No, he's got different widths. Hold on, he's got different widths. So look, let's see what he says. So Rabbi Yehuda's Omer ba'amal Chamisha Tvachim. Meluchos Orchon Shisha v'Rachman Shisha. The luchos are the same, 6 by 6. No one disputes that. V'Avion Shlosha, and the thickness is 3. No one disputes the size of the luchos. There's no debate about the size of the luchos. Menochos ba'Orchon Shel Aron, and there's no debate where they were placed. They were placed by the length of the Aron, according to the opposite the length of the Aron. The same thing. Now, Kama luchos Ercheles ba'Aron Shnei Masot Tvachim. How much do they take up? 12 Tvachim. Nishtaya Sham Chatzi Tefach, and you're left with just a half a tefach. That's all you're left with, half a tefach. A finger for each wall. How much is a tefach? Arba etzbois is 4 etzbois. Okay. Rashi brings another girsa, but let's just take it the straightforward one. So it's 4. There are 4 etzbois in a tefach. So you've got all you've got here is half a tefach. So you have and you've taken up the whole space. So that's why there's no Sefer Torah. There's none of this thing. All you have is you have a half. Sorry, you have a half here for the wall. You have a half here for the wall. The orange goes the whole. The luchos go the whole way up, and that's it.
So you literally just
they go straight in. They They take up the whole space. The 12. They fit exactly in the 12, and then you have half a half. You have the half of it, you get etzba, and it's not half. Sorry, it's nothing. It's 1 finger, right? Okay, so it's not a quarter. It's a quarter. Yeah, it's a quarter. Yeah, it's a quarter of a tefach. What?
Yeah.
It's a quarter of a tefach for each wall. There we go. Right.
yes, it's a quarter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now we're going to do the width. So now you got to explain and fill the space in the width. Ogdos have to change to ochlos. So how much does the luchos take up in the orange? 6 tvachim, right? You've got a tefach and a half left because we've got 6, so it's only a tefach and a half there. Right, okay. Yeah, a tefach and a half. So what are you going to do with that tefach and a half? You take off half a tefach. You got 1 etzba there, 1 etzba there. So that is a quarter. Each wall is a quarter. The same thickness for the walls is a quarter as 1 etzba. Okay. That's etzba the Bach changes the gears a bit. You're left with 1 tefach. Shaboy amudin omdim. There were poles that were inside the Aron, not the same as the badim that we're carrying it with. There were special amudim that were inside the Aron. Posuk in Shir Hashirim. Shnevel, the Posuk says, Apirion, which we translated, I think, as sedan chair. Osole Amelech Shlomo me'atze alevonon. Shlomo Amelech made from the cedars of Lebanon. Amudov oso kesef. its pillars were made of silver. Refidosa, its back was made of gold. Merkovoi, argomon, we got its seat was made of argomon, we got purple wool, whatever. So therefore, so this is this aperion seems to be a description of the Oren, I think, and it says amudov osokesef. It has silver. It was made of silver, and not only that, there was something else in there as well. It says va'argas sheshigru by plishtim dorin and munach mitzido, and the box that the plishtim sent as a present to Hashem, the Kei Yisrael munach mitzido, is placed on the side. Hashem azov, the golden implements that were sold, given as a guilt offering. So simu bargas, you should place them in a box mitzido on the side. V'shilachtem oso v'holach, you shall send them and go. V'olov. Now this was next to the Oren. So there was a box next to the Oren, and these klei zohov, I think they were the hemorrhoid, weren't they? They were mice and and other things, and they were inside these golden things that they sent back as this doro, this gift, whatever, to appease what they had done, the Plishtim, when they took the Oren. What was that? Beginning of Sefer, beginning of Shmuel, beginning of Sefer Shmuel, right? Shmuel, yeah. Anyway, they sent these back. Yeah, they sent these back. It's a Shmuel, yeah. Shmuel al very well. So they sent these back, and then they sent them back, and they put them in a box, and the box was next to the Oren, and that fulfilled a very important function because v'olov Sefer Torah munach, and on that box next to the Oren, that was where the Sefer Torah was, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Shnei pasuk says l'koach haSefer Torah hazeh, you shall take the Sefer Torah, the samtim oso mitzad Oren bris Hashem. You shall place it next to the Oren bris Hashem, and therefore you see it's mitzad hayamunach v'lo b'soichai. It was next to it and not inside. It was next to it and not inside.
Next question. There's hundreds of years between.
Yeah.
Yes, the Gemora was going to ask that. What happened in the meantime? But let's just make sure we understand these are mudim. So the lucha Rashi. So 1 second, how much space have you got in the width? 1 tefach. So the way Rashi explains it, we'll see Rashi in a minute, is basically you've got the luchos were not like this. The luchos were in the middle, and there was a pole on each side. According to Rabbi Yehuda. So you've got your luchos here, right? They're the same size. They're the same size. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, they take up the whole height. Yeah, they're 6 by 6, and then this space, which is half a tefach, there's a pole on each side of silver. All right, that makes sense. There's a pole there on each side of silver. That's your silver pole, there and there. That's a contributor. And next to it was a separate box, and on top of that box was where the Sefer Torah. So the Sefer Torah was not inside the Oren, according to Rabbi Yehuda. It was outside. So the Gemara asks, right, we see Mitzad what do you do with a posuk which ain't ba'aron rak? Rameh has a posuk. From that posuk we learn that Amiyat Achomiyat al Rabbi is coming to include something. What's it coming to include? It's coming to include the Sefer Torah. Rabbi Yehuda says Sefer Torah is outside. So what is it coming to include according to Rabbi Yehuda? Right? Right? The Manu Kaim Orak, the Rabbi Shivrei Luchos, Shemanochim ba'aron. That posuk includes the Shivrei Luchos, which were placed in the Aron. You ask me, where's the space? Underneath, Rashi says, Tachas Luchos. Because the height of the Luchos we said was 3 tefachim, and the height of the Aron is 9, 7.5, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So you've got enough space for the broken Luchos. The Shivrei Luchos were placed in the Aron. Yeah. Now, then the Gemara, that's the end of the Brisa. Then the Gemara's come on to the Kasha on what we said before. Yeah, so let's just see Rashi on Rabbi Yehuda.
The first one was the same size as the second.
Yeah.
I don't really have space. I mean,
2
they're broken.
underneath. Oh, I see. That's interesting. Think of that.
The volume
It's
is the same,
an
right?
accounting question. You haven't heard? It's fair enough. Absolutely. The maths doesn't add up. No, but Richie's question is that how can you get broken pieces inside a space? If the first set of luchos, if the first luchos were as large, just there's
Yeah, but then back in
yeah, but you haven't got 3.
Just got enough height.
You haven't got enough height.
Yeah,
Why not?
Because the height is 7.5.
Minus the net.
And the second one's took up how much? Really?
Oh, maybe you do have that. No.
How much these?
Oh, you've got enough height. You've got enough height. You do. Because you got 7.5 height and they were only 3 high.
Only 3.
So you're okay. As long as you can put them back together. If you didn't put
No.
if you do, even if you didn't put it, you got a bit, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's what they did. That's what it was. So let's just see Rashi on this. Martin, do you have a question or okay, fine. Review
The other thing by the side of the arm was the mom.
Yes.
So
And that seems to be everyone held that was outside, right?
It was outside, but they must have had some kind of
Place to put it.
aperture for it. I assume. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting question also as to what the purpose of the Amudim was. There's a Tosfos, we'll see Tosfos in a second. What were these Amudim for? Right? I mean, huh?
Stop the things moving around.
Yeah, but they weren't decorative because you couldn't see them. They weren't for lifting anything because they were inside rather than being on the outside. So it's an unusual feature. What were they for? Let's just see to Rashi first. He says that the measure of the arm is 5 tefachim. Rabbi Yehuda l'tamei. Rabbi Yehuda's point is reason to come out mas kelim ba'am vas chamisha. He says the arm of the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash was always 4 5 tefachim. Menachas the archa shel arm mitzalas al reichon le'al chuda. They were placed on their length and not on their. They're placed on their width and not on the point. Because there were 3. Rashi is pointing out if the luchos were placed on the side, then they would only be 3 wide. Because they were placed on the width, they're 6. Yeah, they take up 6. Tefach is 4 etzbos, which gives you if you take up 1 etzbah for each wall. Well, there is a girsa in the Gemora here, which is a finger and a half. Be'etzba katana k'omer, it means a small etzba. Shatefach dalad b'godol, v'chomesh be'etzba sheish b'katana. Tefach is 4 etzbos if you're measuring with your thumb. It is 5 if you're measuring with the etzba, which is this finger, I believe. Etzba, yeah, I think so. And 6 v'sheish b'katana, and 6 if you're using a small finger. I'm pretty sure that's the etzba. Etzba elokimi. I think that's the etzba. Yeah, I think so. I can't remember the name of the
Index.
which is this one, the second one next to the thumb. What's the name? There's one called this one is the Zeres, and this one is the longest finger. What's it called? I can't remember. Anyway, each one has a name. But anyway, that's how it works. So if you're going to say that it was etzba mechza, then you have to say you're measuring it with the small finger, so it ends up being 6. Because then you get to the same thing. 1.5 plus 1.5 is half of the tefach. Is half of the half and half of the tefach. It is a half tefach altogether. Based on what they kesef from Amudei Sefer Torah, there were 2 poles of silver like the Amudim and Sefer Torah. Sheichim la'archa, they were placed according to the length. Valuchos beinei, and the luchos between them shnema Amudav was kesef. These pillars made of silver. Munach shom betzido shel aron, they were placed next to the side of the aron. Va'lov Sefer Torah munach l'kaim parach mekarei chav. Later on, I was going to ask your question, which was, where were they before this Aron, this Argas, this box was sent back by the Plishtim? So we'll come back to that question. Then we'll come back to that question in a minute. Just one more. Rashi, Rashi says they were underneath the Luchos. The next one. Yeah, go on.
All the Klei Mikdash were made very precisely.
Yes.
So it seems surprising that one of the kalim, the Aron Kodesh, wouldn't be exactly fitting what was inside it.
Except that it was designed.
But then it would have said, and inside the box you put 2 silver amudim.
I mean, why doesn't it say that explicitly in the Torah?
Yeah, because what this is saying is that the Aron Kodesh was wrong side.
Yeah.
You need space to get it in that.
The Gemora is going to come on to the space to get in. We'll go to that. But yeah, Eli's question is, I think, on here. Parshas Pekudei.
Yeah.
Look, Parshas Pekudei, right? This is your question, really. Perek Mem, Pasuk Chof, when it describes the actual, put it all together. Vayikach, Vayitenes, Vayidus, Al El Ha'oroi, right? And he put the Eidus, the Luchos, right, inside the Aron. They also Mr. Badam al Ora, and he placed the staves, right? But he put the lid on, and then it carries on. So that's really your question. Why it doesn't talk about anything else? It implies that was all it was for. Why wasn't it exact? Yeah. But yeah.
There wasn't. Depends which of the other Rabbi Meir went in.
Yeah.
You've
But
got
I don't
this
understand.
tough one wrong there. These will be the.
Yeah, Rabbi Meir. Well, Rabbi Meir is more of a question with Rabbi Meir because the Sefer Torah is, except he's got a posuk. That's the point. He's got Ein Ba'or and Rak, which means there's something else in there, and we also know that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Sefer Torah because it says. Sefer Torah. The problem is, I think the one's going to deal with how he does with the, because Rameh has to deal with the pasuk of Mitzad, right? Mitzad Oren was next to the Oren, right? Okay, yeah. What does he do with that? The pasuk says explicitly in Devarim, you shall take the Sefer Torah and place it next to the Oren, but not inside. That's another problem. Yeah. Let's just see this Tosfos a second about what was the purpose of these amudim. Near last Tosfos on the Amud. Near Rabbeinu Tam, the similar Hamodas Yisrael. They were like a sign of the establishment, the standing of Klal Yisrael. They were made of gold. Not to mention Egel Azov. The defender cannot become the accuser, cannot become the defender. Right? That's why they're not made of gold. Famous Gemora. You didn't used to use the begodim. That's why the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur is white, because you don't have gold, because gold is a problem for us, because the Egel Azov, right? The Aron was made of gold, and that was right inside. The Mashani Mechapek Amrinan, to atone, that's the problem. It's going for Kapara, that's a problem. They were made for the foundation, the standing of Klal Yisrael, and therefore they were also like a form of Kapara. And he brings a piyut for the first day of Pesach. Whenever I see this occasionally, Rashi and Tosfos quote the piyutim. This is a piyut for Yom Rishon Shel Pesach. And I always feel a bit, you understand, the Bali Tosfos, they knew this stuff. They knew the piyutim for first day Pesach. And they bring rayas from it. And we don't treat the piyutim with enough. We don't do them. We don't say them. We miss them out. The Rishonim, they were like, it's on their fingertips, these piyutim, right? They bring proofs from lines in them. Yeah. Tavnis Os Yosef, Mudav Osa Kesef. For sure, Tavnis Os Yosef, because of the sign of Yosef, Shimon Shel Yosef, line of Egel, Yosef Nikoshar, Yosef is called an ox, that's the sign of Yosef, Shimon Bechosher Adorloi, the Kacham, Mudav Osa Kesef, Lezov. That's why the pillars were made of silver, not gold, so as not to mention the Maisel Egel. So it's interesting, that's his understanding of the piyut. Tavnis Os Yosef, because of Tavnis is like the form of the sign of Yosef, which in other words is the Egel itself, because Yosef is called a Shar, B'char Shairai. Therefore, Amudov Oso Kesef. Because of the Egel, therefore he made the pillars, he made the poles of silver. Because of that, so that they would not bring up the Egel Hazov in any form of something which was needed for Kapara. It's interesting. So it seems to be that Pshat in these Amudim is almost like a defense. We need that defense from the Egel Hazov. The Egel Hazov is all wrapped up there in Matan Torah, right? So that the pillars of silver are there. He says, what does it mean, a similar ha'amodas Yisrael? For the establishment of Klal Yisrael. It seems to be to do with Egel Hazov. I think it seems to link to that. That the Klal Yisrael have a standing and they exist and they're here and they're present and then the silver is deliberately, so there's nothing to do with Egel Hazov. It's like an antidote to Egel Hazov. Anyway, that's what Tosfos seems to be saying, I think.
I'm sorry, I really didn't understand. You're saying that we Chazal Mitaken that we could put these silver.
No, it's from Pasuk and Shosher. Apiria and Osa Shlomo. So that's where you learn it from. It says Apiria and Osa Melech Shlomo me'atzel volan amudov Osa Kesef. So Chazal said, what does he mean amudov Osa Kesef? These were these amudim, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that were placed inside the Aron. Tosfos is simply explaining what their function was. And they were symbolic. Right? Like what is an amud for? It's to hold something up. So these pillars, or these poles of silver, were there to show that Klal Yisrael are supported. And Tosfos is at length to point out that they were made of silver, not gold, because Ein Katega Nasa Sanegar, we avoid Egel Hazov. So I'm just suggesting that maybe they were even more closely linked to that Egel Azov. What does it mean similar Hamodas Yisrael? Why? I'm suggesting that it means because of the failings of the Egel. So it's almost like they're giving us some form of symbolic support that we can still carry on. It's just tonight, I don't know. It's just again.
Where was this whole trouble to add to what was in the
It wasn't. It's just we learned from that pasuk in Shar Shirim that that's what was in the ark. So, I see. It says Apirion also Melech Shlomo. Yeah, but a Melech Shlomo in Shar Shirim can often refer to Hamelech Shalom Shalom. It's Hashem himself. Shlomo. Hamelech Shlomo. It's all. You have to know how to obviously have to learn Shar Shirim. Shlomo. Hamelech Shlomo. It can often mean Hamelech Shalom Shalom. It's Hashem himself. So that's that's what we're learning. What we're doing here. Yeah. Okay, right, now let's get to the question. Top of the next song. If you're going to hold, I want to do this bit quite quickly. 10 minutes. I'd like to finish this piece because it's one sugya. So let's try and get to the 2 dots. It's halfway down, but I think it's quite relatively straightforward. I'll try and finish the sugya. If you're going to say, what's the kasha? If you're going to say the Sefer Torah has a hekef, right? Vov tfochim. That was the circumference of it, right? If you're going to say, we know there's a klal pi or basic pi, yeah. That if you have the hekef of shlosh tfochim, the circumference of 2 tfochim, yesh baruch of tefach has a diameter of 1 tefach. The kivan de la'em so iso niglal. This is Eli's point, right? Since you roll the Sefer Torah to the middle. You're going to be left with more than 2 tfochim. The space between the two, Chaim, if you're rolling the Sefer Torah to the middle, there's going to be that space in the middle. How can it possibly be sitting in exactly 2 tfochim? We're going in Rav Meir, okay? We're going in Rav Meir. You can't possibly fit a Sefer Torah which is exactly 2 tfochim, and you know that because we said before that a Sefer Torah has a hekef of 6 tefachim. We gave those measurements before. They asked Rebbe Shir Sefer Torah Bakama Bigvil Shisha, and we said the height is the same as the circumference. So if the height is 6, the circumference is also 6. No? Yeah.
The circumference.
We said the height and the circumference are the same. Remember?
Yeah.
Of the roll, you put that piece of string around it, and that's going to be 6. If the height of the cloth is 6, right? What was that? Right. So the height is 6, and therefore the consequence is also 6. If the circumference, right? So therefore, you know that. Therefore, you can work out that the Sefer Torah, the Sefer Torah, which has a hekef, a circumference of 6, yeah, must have a thickness of 2, a diameter of 2. Circumference of 6 means a diameter of 2, basically, because the klal that's pi. If you've got a circumference of 3, you've got a diameter of 1. Is that right? Makes sense, yeah? And then here you've got a circumference of 6, which means you must have a cloth thickness, a diameter of 2 tfochim. But the problem is, it's on 2 rolls. And because it's on 2 rolls and you roll into the middle, it's not going to be exactly 2. It would be exactly 2 if it was in 1 roll. Not making sense. Making sense?
Yeah, unless you start sideways.
Huh?
Unless it's sideways.
No, it's like very,
It's not sideways. Why would we sideways?
doesn't it depend how thick the hole is in the middle?
Yes, it does as well. That's a good point. It does depend on I think the polish, but
It's negligible context.
So you could make it as thick as needed.
yeah, you could make a very, very thin pole. So, but the point here is, yeah, Toras deals with your problem, Eli. Toras room. Toras says, "Mashmashim amudin hoyakefer shisha with the poles. The hekef is 6, circumference is 6. Shemoya hekefer below amudin kinofesh lemishni tvachim hadi amudin. Then it's going to be more plus the poles. So the 6 includes the poles. Okay, so we dealt with the poles. I'm in there. I'd say Chaim. I don't mean the amudin we mentioned before, right? We're going in Rav Meir now, not Rav Yehuda, right? So we're talking about the Sefer Torah. But the question. It sounds a convoluted way to get to the kasha, but the kasha itself is relatively straightforward, yes? You have a Sefer Torah here. If the Sefer Torah was in 1 roll, then you could try and argue That's fine. The circumference of the roll is 6. Therefore, the diameter is 2. You've got 2 according to Reb Meir. That's the space you've got. So you can put your whole roll, the whole Sefer Torah in one roll in it. But it's not. Because it's rolled le'emso isoi, niglal. It's a regular Sefer Torah like we have. You roll it to the middle. Therefore, you're left over. You've got. There's more than 2 tefachim. The space that's between the 2 rolls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I making sense? If you roll something in one roll and then you do it in 2 rolls, it's going to be more. What?
We'd only get a problem if it was bigger than this space, not smaller.
It doesn't fit in the space. If I have a roll, right, of material or paper or whatever in one roll, and then I separate it out into 2 rolls, like a Sefer Torah looks like, the width is going to be wider than when it's in a single roll. That's what the Gemora calls Ravchot Beini Beini, the space that's between the Avir Shebein Amud LaAmud. There's going to be airspace between the 2 rolls. It's not going to be the same width.
It won't be a stick.
They won't.
Because you forget that you don't. I mean, it's not the same Tzichan like we have now.
Yeah, but if you split your single roll into 2,
We're just flattening it. I don't understand.
Why couldn't they be flat up against each other?
1 second. You're telling me that if I have something, let's look on. If you look at it, I have a circle like that, right? So perfect circle, and then I split it into 2, and it's like this.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the time. You're telling me that's the same width. You're saying that's going to be a 3, and you're saying that's also 3. Can't be
No,
because you've got airspace there.
So you can still fit it into the 2 others.
Yeah.
It's flatter.
What do you mean it's flatter? Because it's not as big.
Because you can go
We're not worried about height. We're worried about width. What? That's not what you mean. It's flatter.
You can put the same turret in sideways, right? So
You're putting it in. You're putting it in inside here in that space there.
Yeah, but do you have to be putting it in so that the 2 rolls are next to each other? One they could be like that.
No, you can't put it in like that.
No.
You've got to put it in like that. It's got to be flat. There's no suggestion that Sefer Torah was one roll on top of the other. It was definitely placed like that, lying in the Sefer Torah. They weren't like, it wasn't on his side. They didn't leave the Sefer Torah on his side. There's no standing up or something like that, right? So the Gemara's question is that if you've got a space, sorry, it's not 3, it's 2. You've got a space which is 2. It would be fine if it was in one roll, but it wasn't in one roll. So that's not 2. That's going to be 2.5. There's a bit of extra space, yeah.
The other thing is,
Makes sense. No, you must have more. It must be wider.
except Pythagoras is 3.942.
Yeah, it's not exact.
No, so it's not 3. So it's not, the ratio is not 1 to 3.
Slightly more.
It's less. The radius, if the circumference is.
Meaning what? Your diameter is.
If your diameter is 6,
Yeah.
or diameter is 3, then your radius is less.
This is now becoming above my maths ability.
It's 3.142. No?
Just let it
So
What does that mean?
So it would work. I mean, it could work.
I asked question. Yeah.
So that means the radius is less than, yeah? Because you've got 1.142.
But we're
So you've got more space to play with.
not having more space. So the diameter anyway is 2 strong,
Hmm.
which is quite a lot. So that
But
time.
not if you go on
You might not cover you anyway. This might not be enough to get you inside the space. Anyway, we're taking on. It's always we take on that width, right? Take on the width always. Anyway, so the Gemara says, the answer is it was in one roll, right? The Sefer Azara was actually rolled to the beginning. They rolled it to Bereshis. The Sefer Azara. That's the Sefer Azara. It's interesting. It's called the Sefer Azara. See, this is where it's confusing because this implies that it was the Sefer Torah that had that Moshe Rabbeinu.
I think there's a Rashi on this onward.
Yeah, we'll come to that Rashi in a minute. Yeah, exactly. The Sefer Torah. Anyway, let's just see the Gemara. The Sefer Azara was rolled to the beginning, right? Bakati says the Gemara still Trei v'Trei Yosef. So you roll it to the beginning, and it's in one roll, pretty much, and you still can't get it in because 2 exactly in 2 does not fit. If you have a width of 2 tvachim, you cannot put something inside of this 2. Try this at home. Right? If you have a gap that's exactly 2, you will not get something in which is exactly 2. There has to be slightly less to fit in. Yeah. On that, the Gemara answers a simple practical solution. Amar Rashi, the Korich Bei Purta, they kind of wrapped it in a little roll, the Korchi La'el, and then it was sitting on top. So it ended up like this. Basically, ended up like this. The Sefer Azara was like this, yeah, with a little bit of a roll on top. So it was 2. It ended up being, let's say, 1.98. You understand? Ended up being like 1.98, and that's how it fitted in that space. So it was a roll. It was, and the second, I'd say Chaim, the bit that had I don't know, was a bit of Bereshis on it would have been, I imagine. Yeah, would have been still a little bit on top. Yeah. Let's just see Rashi. Rashi explains this. We won't have time to finish this today, but that's okay. We'll just see Rashi on this bit. Yes, but no, it's fine. It's fine. We'll finish next time. No problem. Yes, but and this was which was the hekef of 6 nimtza. That means the circumference of 6 nimtza over roch b'shnei tefachim. So the width was going to be 2 tefachim. So Rav the Beini Avish ben Amud la'amud, but you've got the extra space between the 2 amudim. If you roll it in, it's in 2 rolls. We're 2 tefachim where you put the Sefer Torah. There's no space. So we answered the Sefer Azara. Why is it called the Sefer Azara? Sefer Shekos of Moshe, the Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, Boy, Korin Ba'azara. And in that Sefer Torah, they used to read in the Azara, Parshas HaMelech, B'Hakel. They used to reuse that Sefer Torah for the Parshas HaMelech and Hakel. The Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim. The Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim, it's Choloso Hu Niglal. It was rolled to the beginning. Ein Lo Ela Amad Echod. It had 1 roll. The Nigla Mitchiloso L'Sofo. So Litchiloso Niglal. Rashi says it was rolled from the beginning to the end. That must be Oh, that's right. That's right. We did this last time. There's a problem here with the. There's a bit of a problem here with where it was rolled to. We saw a Tosfos last time, the bottom of the Gemora with base, where Tosfos deals with this issue. He brought Rashi, where Rashi seems to imply. He said that there as well. It was rolled mitchiloso l'sofo. This was the same as Rashi on the bottom of Yud Gimel on the base, but Rashi also being rolled to the beginning to the end. The problem is that the Gemara. Tosfos asked this question because the Lashon L'tchiloso Hu Niglal is rolled to the beginning is not like Rashi, doesn't imply like Rashi, right? Rashi seems to you go to the end. L'tchiloso Hu Niglal is rolled to the beginning. So there's a question on Rashi, right? The Gemara answered the Korach by Porta She'ena Golelo Kulo. He didn't roll the whole thing up. Menech by Miktas, he left over a little bit. The Korach Atzmai, it was wrapped by itself. On Menecho So Krach Ala Sefer Malmalo. That little roll was placed on top of the Sefer above it. The Korach El. And it was sort of wrapped above it on the whole scroll. So it ended up looking like that. And that's how you got the Sefer Torah in, according to Rameh. What's interesting is that the Gemara's gone on to the Sefer Azara, and we had this whole, Tosfos had this whole problem before as to what the Sefer Torah was used for. So maybe we're just bringing a proof that the Sefer Azara, why can't we just say, well, of course they use the Sefer Torah for Hakel, they use the Sefer Torah for the Kohen Gadol to read on Yom Kippur, unless we're saying that that it was simply created in the same way. The Rabbeinu Gershom here clearly says, Sefer Azara Hainu Sefer Torah Hamonach Ba'aron. This was the Sefer Torah that was placed in the Aron. It was placed in the Aron. It was placed in the Aron. So this is obviously a problem with this with that previous Tosfos. That's exactly what Tosfos said before. That's exactly what Tosfos said before. No, Tosfos had a problem with this before. Tosfos wasn't happy with this. Tosfos says we don't find that they took it out. Yeah. Yeah.
How can you take it out? You have to lift the whole space. It's just not practical.
What's fully to remain? You've got space. What, the same Torah?
You have to lift up the top.
Yeah. Oh, he couldn't do it himself. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, maybe we'll come back to this next time. Maybe we'll come back to that. We're out of time. There's a Cheshek Shlomo here on that Tosfos who deals with this in greater detail based on Seder Yuma, where the whole of Seder Yuma, Tosfos got questions of Seder Yuma, but Seder Yuma is the bias Sheni. And the bias Sheni, there was no Sefer Torah. The whole Seder of Maseches Yuma is on the bias Sheni. So okay, it's okay. We're out of time. We'll continue with Mr. Shem next time. Because you see the problem here. What was this? What? There's no R in the bias Sheni. That's the problem. The Tosfos earlier brought a whole proof.
Yeah.
You have an idea, which was.
Yeah, no, but they do talk about bionutrition in the silver.
Yes, but the say, okay, we'll have to see it. Let's leave it. We'll carry on a Mitzvah next time. We
Yeah.
will. Okay, very good. Leave it on a cliffhanger. Trying to work out what the say. Work out what it was for. Okay.
So nice.